You know, in the Star Wars galaxy, a blaster is so much more than just a weapon. From the tiniest holdout pistol all the way up to a starship's massive cannons, every single one is engineered with a purpose. And that purpose? It tells a story about the person or the army that carries it. So let's break down the hidden language of these iconic weapons.
Well, you might think so, right? A blaster's a blaster. But in the Star Wars universe, that's just not true. A blaster is almost like a fingerprint. It reflects its wielder's job, their status, even a bit of their personality. The weapon someone chooses to carry can tell you everything you really need to know about them.
And that right there, that's the core idea for this whole explainer. In Star Wars, weapon design is always intentional. It's not random. Every single blaster, from its size and power to any custom mods, it's telling a story about what it was built for and who it was built for.
So here's our plan. We're going to start with the personal sidearms, the ones that really define our favorite characters. Then, we'll scale up to the standard issue gear of massive armies. After that, we'll dive into the really weird niche tools for specialists before we finish with the kind of awesome firepower that can level a battlefield.
All right, first up, personal arms. This is where things get really interesting, because the line between a weapon's actual practical purpose and its legendary status gets super blurry. It creates this fascinating myth versus reality dynamic. The holdout blaster is the perfect example. This is the weapon of spies, smugglers, and yeah, even royalty like Princess Leia with her Defender pistol. It's not meant for a long, drawn-out firefight, no way. It's designed for that one critical shot when nobody even knows you have a weapon. It's all about concealment.
Okay, now let's talk about the absolute baseline, the standard issue blaster pistol. I mean, the stats are fine. It's a solid, reliable sidearm. Decent range, good fire rate. They give them out to millions of soldiers and officers. It does the job. But it's also completely and utterly forgettable.
And this is the perfect example of what you could call the Han Solo effect. The DL-44 blaster pistol isn't famous because it's technically the best. It's famous because of the guy who used it. Han's swagger and his impossible escapes turned a heavily modified, kinda clunky pistol into a galactic legend.
See, a heavy blaster pistol wasn't something they just handed you. It was a serious investment. Mercenaries, bounty hunters, they spent their own hard-earned credits on these. Carrying one was basically a walking advertisement that you not only expected serious trouble, but you were willing to pay top dollar for the firepower to walk away from it.
Okay, let's move up the ladder a bit to the weapons that are the backbone of entire armies. And here, we run into this really interesting conflict between what's practical for an actual soldier and what looks dramatic and exciting in a story.
So on paper, the blaster carbine should be the perfect weapon for your average soldier. It's got more punch and range than a pistol, but it's way more compact and easier to handle than a full-size rifle. Perfect for fighting inside starships or in tight city streets, right?
But here's the funny thing. The great irony of the carbine. It's so practical that it's boring for a movie. It's the sensible choice. It lacks the up-close drama of a pistol duel or the epic feel of a giant cannon. So while it's the smartest choice for a soldier, you almost never see a hero pick one up.
But then you have the complete opposite, the blaster rifle. This thing is a movie staple. It's basically the AK-47 of the Star Wars galaxy. It's rugged, it's reliable, and it's become the symbol of infantry soldiers everywhere. And of course, no rifle is more famous than the E-11, the weapon of the Imperial stormtrooper.
Which, of course, brings us to that age-old question. Why can't stormtroopers hit anything? Well, here's the thing. It's not the rifle's fault. The E-11 is a perfectly capable weapon. The real problem is the person holding it. The Republic's super-skilled clone troopers were replaced by a much less effective Imperial army. It wasn't the gun, it was the training. All right, now we're getting into some of my favorite stuff. The Specialist's Toolbox. These are the weird, niche weapons that are actually brilliant in the right situation, but they get totally overlooked in the big, grand story of the Star Wars saga.
I mean, think about the sniper rifle. From a pure military strategy point of view, it's a total game changer. But in a story that's all about heroic, face-to-face duels and dramatic showdowns, a sniper just feels like cheating, doesn't it? It's a brilliant tool for war, but it's just not very satisfying for a movie.
And this little chart here breaks down a few other really specific tools for very specific jobs. You've got sporting blasters for hunting, but they're way too weak for combat. Sonic blasters do horrible internal damage, but only if there's an atmosphere. And then there's the ion blaster, the ultimate anti-droid weapon that's completely harmless to organic life.
And that ion blaster?
This is where it just gets kind of ridiculous. The Republic fought a 3-year-long war against an army made almost entirely of droids. And yet the one weapon perfectly designed to shut those droids down was never made standard issue. It is a tactical screw-up of absolutely galactic proportions.
Okay, so we've covered personal arms, military gear, and the weird specialist stuff. Now, it's time to go big. In this last section, we're looking at weapons where precision and aiming, well, they kind of stop being the point.
And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? The repeating blaster isn't for marksmanship, it's a suppression tool. The entire goal is to just fill a zone with so many blaster bolts that absolutely nothing can get through or survive in it. Aiming becomes totally irrelevant.
And then you've got the Wookiee bowcaster, which is, man, it's in a league of its own. It's this incredibly powerful weapon that fires an explosive quarrel wrapped in plasma. It hits harder than a standard blaster rifle. And yet, for some reason, the rest of the galaxy just kind of dismissed this masterpiece of Wookiee engineering as a weird curiosity.
So you can really see the escalation here, the different philosophies of combat. You go from the repeating blaster, which is all about suppressing a wide area, to the bowcaster for one single heavy-hitting shot, and then you make the leap to the massive firepower of vehicle-mounted cannons.
Finally, we hit the top tier, the blaster cannon. And let's be clear, this isn't a weapon you carry, it's an entire weapon system. This is the heavy-duty hardware they bolt onto X-Wings, TIE fighters, and walkers. And it's designed to just shred through shields and turn bunkers into dust.
I mean, look at this. It really puts it all into perspective. They both get called blasters, but the power difference between a little pistol and a full-on blaster cannon is just, it's staggering. It's a huge reminder of just how big the scale of conflict in the Star Wars galaxy really is.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It really comes down to this question. In Star Wars, weapons aren't just props, they're characters in their own right. They are a core part of the story, each with its own job and its own personality. So next time you watch, pay attention to the blasters. You might be really surprised by the stories they have to tell. Thanks for watching.